Do you guys remember how cash buyers were terrorizing the real estate marketplace a few years ago? Well, what if I were to tell you someone just reached out to me that bought a house cash a little bit more than a year ago and now could be potentially more than $100,000 underwater? Is this swift justice or just terrible timing? Let's find out what's going on in their particular neighborhood that made values drop so much. And obviously, let's confirm if that's true or not true. And more importantly, let's see how you can potentially avoid this for any potential downturns in the future. So here is the situation at hand. They purchased a property for $660,000 and they closed in May 2022. The house was listed for $620,000 and they bought it for $660,000. Now they're saying they bought it for that much because it was a multiple offer situation. And according to them, they really love the house. It was their dream house and they just got an inheritance. And besides, they were combining not only their inheritance that they just received from someone, but they also have been saving a lot of money over the past few years. And there was nothing getting in their way from getting this house. Well, I'm sure it felt at the time that it was the absolute best thing that they could do. And I'm sure at the encouragement of their agent, who probably made a swift 2 to 3%. So what is that, like 15 to 20K off the deal? That everybody was completely pushing you to get to that house for $665. But anyways, they ended up paying a little more than $30,000 above the list price to secure their deal. They got the house, and to their credit, it's a beautiful house, beautiful yard, amazing neighborhood. I'm sure they don't regret actually living there. They don't have a monthly payment, and it is what it is now. Now, here's the problem. They may be potentially in a situation where they might have to move. Now, it's not a sure thing yet, according to them, but they might have the potential to move. Although they knew that they're probably not going to make a ton of money, they just weren't expecting to lose that much. So I get it. Let's get into it. So first and foremost, what's going on here? What happened? Well, now unfortunately for them, they potentially bought at the worst time. Now this may be a chart of their area or it may not be. Wink, wink. So as we know, April 20, the low interest rates, the COVID bubble happened, right? Everybody, instead of staying home, decided to say, let's go buy houses. Massive increase, 10 to 20, 30, even 30% in some areas of increase in value. We were in this roller coaster. We thought it was never going to end. It was amazing, right? And maybe during this time, people were just so used to the madness that they thought, just get a house, get in there. It's going to be amazing. Woo! Everyone was just completely going crazy. May 2022, his average sales price was $460,000 then in this particular city, or may not be in this particular city. It was about the peak, right? Actually, there was a small dip, and then the next month was the absolute peak. So they bought really right at the top of the mountain. And how could they have known that? Of course, there was a lot of factors that really maybe they weren't considering. So if we look at the interest rates here, we can see, let's go back to, 2-year period. May 2022 is when they were still floating around that, 5% range. They went from like 3% in January of 2022 to 5%. So maybe an indicator that things were to come. But anyway, from May to July, that's when things started really going crazy. And they went up to like the 6% range. And in September, that's when things went absolutely insane to the 7%, right? That's where things really started slowing down to a halt. So because inventory started rising and pending numbers went down, that massive price reduction happened. And this is what created this whole thing, right? So maybe being aware of what's going on with the rates at that point of time could have helped them be a little more involved. Also, maybe them using their leverage as a cash buyer to actually get a better deal instead of just going in and bullying the competition and getting the house could have helped the situation. But I'm not going to sit here and beat them up because hindsight's 2020, and I'm sure they're already beating themselves up as much as it is. So let's move on. So what I did is I pulled up their exact house. I know their exact square footage, their bedrooms, their bathrooms. I looked up their specific neighborhood, and I just documented every single house that's sold that was their model over the past year and a half, just to see what was that chart. Did the values go up? Did they go down? What exactly happened? Because it's fun to look at data all day long and look at like charts, but when you actually are seeing houses sell real time and you see the actual adjustment, this is where things can actually be interesting and see if it's actually true or not, right? So here's what I did. Since purchasing their house in May, there has been a total of seven including theirs, but 6 houses that sold that were exact model matches with the pool in the back, same exact neighborhood and everything. So let's actually document and see what happened to their values. Are they in a terrible shape? Have they lost truly over $100,000? Where are they even getting this number, etc., etc.? So to no one's surprise, a month later, a almost model match sold, but it didn't sell for as much. It was listed for 645. Actually, no, listed for 629. Someone bought it for 650. I'm sure at the time, whoever bought it thought they got an amazing deal because they got it for $10,000 cheaper than the one that just sold in there, but it was with a loan. So I'm sure they were happy to get it. So anywho, that was immediately right after that. Now, interestingly enough, there wasn't any actual sales of the model match for about 9 months later. Now, this one was interesting because they listed it at 615, but they couldn't sell it. So they eventually had to reduce it and accepted an offer for 590. But they gave about $6,000 of concessions. So we're not going to like necessarily get it off there, but I want to put it here for you guys to know that, because if you're ever thinking about selling and you think, oh, you know, all I have to worry about is the commissions and the fees. No, like sometimes you got to give a little to the buyer to convince them to buy your house. So this is what happened in this specific situation. So about 5 months later, sorry, for those that don't know, you might hear me sound a little more nasally. I actually have COVID right now, unfortunately. So my family and I, my little baby, she's 6 months, my two kids, my wife, we all have COVID right now. And I'm here chugging along, drinking my Topo Chico. It doesn't help me. I just happen to be drinking one. Here making videos for you guys. The next sale was in August. And surprisingly enough, almost similar price. Listed at $590, but sold for $590. So this actually lines up pretty well, because if we go back into our chart, and here I'm showing you just the median chart. I'm showing you just of all the Phoenix, Arizona area. We saw that after there's a drop, there's an increase, and like for March and on, there was just like a flat line, right? So it makes sense why from March to August, there was like no really increase for list price, in the house literally sold for the same exact number. So that's maybe what you would have seen. Maybe that's why a lot of you guys started watching me during this time, because you guys are like, hey, it's a good time to buy again because the market's crashing, or who knows what, right? But there was a lot of excitement in the air. Even though rates were high, people thought prices were going to go down. So that's maybe why there's like not much drop or growth then. But let's see what continued to happen though. Unfortunately, that did not continue. And approximately only technically a month later, it's closed at the end of that month, there is another sale. They listed it for $570, but sold it for $545. Now this is pretty puzzling, because I looked through the photos and they're like almost identical houses. So I don't understand why they sold it for this low. But that's just the thing. Like, your neighbor could be a lot more desperate. They're in an emergency situation where they need to get out right away. Or maybe there's a situation where there's all the buyers are just like bought out, and there's one house that sold that month for $590, and then there's just no more buyers left, and the buyers that actually are that come back into the picture are a lot more savvy, right? So it's just really, when you sell your house, it's really a luck thing. It depends who's out there at the moment, how desperate they are compared to what you're looking for and how desperate you are. And sometimes it just creates a perfect explosion like this, where this person, whoever bought this house here, you obviously are Javier Vidana watcher, because you did a great job here. Now next is, we have it, unfortunately, another drop. Someone listed it at $544, only $1,000 less than this. So it's like almost they're keeping an eye on the market, but they sold it for $523. Massive drop below. And just last month, we have the same exact model. So once again, we're looking, but completely like remodeled. Like someone bought this place and turned it into like an LA living kind of situation, where white and black tile, everything. Toilet has a bidet, everything. It's like way overdone. Try to sell it for $615, could not sell it. So they eventually sold it for $595. So surprisingly enough, they gave 2% of concessions. So 12,000 around there. Yikes. They gave a lot of money away. Is that 12,000? 1%? Yeah, I guess it would be. Oh, let me go back and document. So no closing costs for the other ones. No closing costs for that one. That one gave 2%. That 590 gave 2%. Oh, and maybe that's why. Let's say 12,000 around there too. Okay. So all in all, this is how it looks like. So they're probably getting the over $100,000 number because of this massive drop here, right? Because if we get that, of course, it looks like you definitely lost over $100,000 in value, and it's terrible. But here's the thing. We have to look at more than just what houses are selling for, right? Because if you were to put your house on the market right now, this very month, which is end of the year 2023, it wouldn't be good for you, because looking at your specific market, I look at what's currently active. Now I can't show you guys this because obviously I have to protect privacy, but there's 8 houses for sale Okay. But if I look at the last 30 days of closing, there's only one house that's sold, right? So right now being the end of the year, not only because the rates are really high, but because usually the end of the years is a very slow time for real estate, you might put your house on the market. It might sell closer to that mid 500 range because it's just that slow time, right? But usually at the beginning of the year is when it picks up and maybe the market starts turning more in your favor, and that's where things would go there. But let's go over some facts here first. You're definitely underwater. You're 100% underwater. You are not going to be making any value. You haven't had any serious appreciation with your house. Unfortunately, some of that money, whether it was an inheritance side or if you want to contribute it to what you've saved, is now unfortunately gone. It's no longer going to be present. If you were to sell your house today, if you get extremely lucky, you can maybe sell it for around what that person sold it for. But me personally, I don't think right now you're selling it for that much. October was a lot more hot than it is now. So maybe you can sell it for, I don't know, $580,000. So if you bought it for $660,000, you're about $80,000 underwater right now. So that sucks. I get it. And I already told you what you could have done better. But let me kind of just take a moment to step away from you to talk to everyone else here, because for everyone else, this is the most terrifying situation you can find yourself in, right? You bought a house and now it's like worth less. Like you're in a situation where you're like, I want to sell it. I want to move on or something, but now you can't sell it. What are you going to do? A few things. Try your best to get the emotions out of it. When you see something you love and you're like willing to go crazy and like pay absurd amount of money, check yourself, right? And sometimes as people's agent, they don't like me very much because they're just so in love with the house. And I have to remind them, hey, our goals are, remember, to pay under list price. Remember, our goals are to do this, our goals to do that. Sometimes they appreciate it, but sometimes they don't, because like you guys get in this state of like frenzy where if you see something you absolutely love, you're willing to just do whatever it takes to get it, like pay more than what it's worth, like go over list price, like do all these crazy things. And I think the fear that people have is they are scared that they're going to miss out on this house and another one will never pop up that's very similar to it. And maybe that's the case. Maybe you'll never see anything like that. But remember, guys, odds are, especially if you're buying in a neighborhood, they probably built one very identical to it, like maybe a few blocks over or just in that same street. So it's important to not get emotionally tied to what you're buying, because this is how you get yourself in this position. So whether you're buying today or 6 months from now or a year from now, whenever you decide to buy, that really doesn't concern me. Do your best to buy under as list price as possible, because yes, you can get the seller to give you $15,000 to $20,000 in goodies so you can buy your rate down, but that's not going to protect you ultimately if you're in a position like this, because I bet you this person really regrets not only paying above list price, but probably wishes they would have bought it below list, right? But either way, let's kind of step back now and talk to the person and talk to everybody as well listening to this. This sucks. This absolutely sucks. But like I've said before, my previous like 1 or 2 videos I made, we're no longer in a temporary house market. If you're buying a house in the past year or in the next few years, we're in a forever house market, right? But I get it. Life happens. There might be in a potential situation where you have to move or you have the ability to move. Okay. Congratulations. Good for you. But you're in a very lucky situation. You bought your house cash. You can turn this into a rental and you'll be fine. You can just go rent wherever you're going to go live. You'll be okay. Quite frankly, you're in a much more privileged situation. And I'm sorry to be a little rude here, but let me kind of just back a little bit. You're fine. You can rent your house out and make some money. And yes, you're underwater, but you're not selling your house. Get that out of your head now. You were able to save a good chunk of this money. You probably have nice emergency savings on the side. Oh well, turn it into a rental. Yeah, you're not going to be an investment rental daddy, Chad boy that's doing seminars now about long-term rentals and fix and flips and all that crap, but you can potentially make some change to maybe help you fund your life and wherever you're going. You're totally fine. Imagine everyone else that got a mortgage a year ago and now they're trying to sell. They're not in a good spot. You, my friend, made a terrible decision of buying over list price on a property that you probably shouldn't have. Okay, live with it. Go rent it out if you're going to move. If you're not going to move, you're in that house for long term, buddy. I'm sorry for bringing out the buddy. I saw the other day, there's like a Venn diagram of like drunk guys fighting or consoling a child or playing with a pet. And then right in the middle of everything was, hey, buddy. I don't know. What I'm just telling you is you feel like, I mean, your email is very aggressive, not to me, but just you're like visceral right now. Okay, whether you stay or go, you have the ability, you have options here. You hold on to this house for a while. And maybe, who knows, maybe down the road you won't be able to make as much, but down the road, you know, whenever you do decide to sell it, this house was a use to you. You turned it into a rental and it made you some money when you left. Maybe you're living there, you created bonding family memories with, you have a great neighborhood you live in. It was of use to you. But the slot machine ka-ching didn't work for you. Well, now this is why you shouldn't be looking at your house like this slot machine investment. This is why, frankly, most people that are looking to buy soon should also stop looking at their house like a slot machine investment. Not everybody has to be complete profitable real estate Chad daddy doing seminars on weekends, making a ton of money on real estate. For the majority of us, we're buying our house so we can live in it because we believe in owning our property. That's it. We're not selling every 2 or 3 years anymore. And this is what needs to go through people's head. Situations like this are going to happen, but we need to change our mindset and we need to look at things a little bit differently. So let me kind of scale it back now. Deep breaths. You're going to be okay. You have options. I don't know how expensive you are where you're going, but you're probably getting a pay raise if you're moving. So turn this into a rental. You have an extra, dude, you can at least rent this place out for $3,000, dude. You're in a good spot. So you're fine. Take a deep breath. You're going to be okay. Yes, you lost some money, right? It is what it is. You played the game, you lost it. You're okay. For everyone else, let this be an example. Try to get your emotions in line. Try to not completely overbid. And you might lose houses. Like, I get it. You might lose houses, or you might say, okay, Javier, but this house has everything I've ever been wanting in my life. I used to dream about these curtains or whatever. Okay, fine. If you're not going to listen to me, don't listen to me. That's fine. But for everyone else who's following my advice, prioritize getting a house as below as list price as possible to protect yourself from any kind of situation like that. Because if the market continues to drop or does drop in the future, you've at least padded yourself whatever that amount is, and you're going to maybe feel a little more grateful, or maybe not have to aggressively pay as much to be able to be in a profitable situation so you can refinance or something. I don't know. There's a lot of options you can go here. All right, guys. So what do you think? Is this person in deep crap or what? Feel free, if you like the video, like and subscribe. And also I have other videos where I talk to other people who are freaking out about them losing out on the value and whatnot. So go check those videos out as well. I appreciate your time. You guys have a good one. Okay. Ciao.